What's poppin', Turtle Maniacs? It is me, MT, and welcome back to the Heavy Spoiler Show, y'all. This is going to be a breakdown of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows from 2016. The same year, Harambe was assassinated in cold blood and sent to the Donkey Kong country in the sky. But let's go ahead and jump into this damn thing, shall we? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows is, of course, the sequel to the 2014 film directed by Jonathan Liebsman and produced by Michael Bay, the greatest Transformers villain of all time. However, this time around, it would be Dave Green directing our green teens on the big screen. I love when directors' last names relate to whatever they're directing, like, for example, Mark Webb with the Amazing Spider-Man movies. So Dave Green being a Ninja Turtles director is funny. I like that. And this isn't the first time the subtitle Out of the Shadows has been used for a piece of Ninja Turtles media, as there was a massive letdown of a video game produced in 2013 with the exact same name. I was so pissed that game sucked turtle turds, man. I thought we were finally getting a Batman Arkham City clone with a Ninja Turtles theme, but all we got was garbage. And because this movie was produced by Paramount Pictures, it starts with the regular Paramount credit introduction sequence, but with ninja stars replacing the regular stars. And speaking of regular stars being replaced, Johnny Knoxville, the voice of Leo in the 2014 movie, is replaced completely by actor Pete Plozek, who actually originally did all the motion capture work for Leo in the first movie before having his voice replaced with Johnny Knoxville's voice. But for some reason, Johnny Knoxville was not asked to return for this movie. But other than him, all the other Turtle actors returned for another go in the Turtle motion capture suits, very much to actor Alan Ritchson's chagrin, as that man did not want to ever play the role of Raphael ever again after the on-set drama and disrespect that he and his fellow castmates endured over the course of the first movie. I talked all about that in my breakdown of the 2014 Ninja Turtles movie that you guys can check out here on Heavy Spoilers anytime you want. Just make sure you hit that subscribe button. It really helps with the channel. But yeah, after those two, we have Noel Fisher returning as Michelangelo and Jeremy Howard returning as Donatello. Tony Shalhoub returns as the voice of everyone's favorite street rat, Master Splinter, with Peter D. Badalamenti doing his mocap work. I can't believe I said that name right the first time. But in terms of returning villains, both actors for Karai and her Master Shredder have also been completely recast. And playing the role of Karai this time around is actress Brittany Ishibashi, taking the place of previous Karai actress Mine Noji. But what's a bit odd about this is that Ishibashi is about 7 years younger than her predecessor, despite this being a sequel. But hey, whatever, man. And for those of you out there that were big fans of the Runaways TV show, you may remember Brittany Ishibashi as Tina Minoru, Nika Minoru's mother. And when Brittany heard that the production was looking for a female foot soldier, she only auditioned hoping that the role would secretly be Karai, as it was, because she loved the character already from previous Turtle media. And instead of actor Tohoru Masamune returning as Shredder, we have actor Brian T., who had roles in Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift, The Wolverine, and Jurassic World. And there's also a full 17-year age gap between those two actors as well, which is even more wild than Karai's recasting. But I definitely think Brian T. fits this role much better, which is very likely due to the fact that he was actually intended to be the Shredder from the start, unlike the last film when Tohoru Masamune was brought in last minute to fix their mistake of casting white actor William Fichtner as the Shredder. And of course, we have Megan Fox back as April O'Neil, working together with Michael Bay again, much like she did in the first two Transformers films. But anyways, as the Turtles fly through the city on their way to the big game, they pick up a pizza that they order from a local pizza delivery man, with that delivery man actually being Kevin Eastman, the man who created the Ninja Turtles alongside his buddy Peter Laird. The Turtles then arrive at Madison Square Garden, where they watch the New York Knicks play against the Los Angeles Clippers. And because of that, actual NBA players like DeAndre Jordan, Carmelo Anthony, Austin Rivers, JJ Redick, Lou Amundsen, Matt Barnes, and Spencer Hawes get some quick cameos. Then, as the Turtles lament about not being able to enjoy the game with all the fans below, we see the return of Will Arnett as Vern Fenwick. But instead of being a lowly cameraman like he was in the last movie, apparently Vern had decided to take full credit for the defeat of the Shredder at the end of the 2014 film, when it was actually the Turtles and April O'Neil that would end up tossing that cybernetic cheese grater off of a skyscraper. However, if you really think about it and stretch a little bit, in a way, Fenwick isn't actually wrong here, because he did end up helping stop the movie's villain Eric Sachs by bonking him on the head with some lab equipment towards the end of the movie. And since the production's original intent for that 2014 film was to have William Fichtner be the Shredder, Vern technically did stop the Shredder in a weird way, but not really, of course. The Turtles get annoyed about not getting any credit for stopping Shredder, leading Mikey to shoot spitballs at Vern using Donnie's high-tech pea shooter. And looking through the sights of that pea shooter, not only can we see that the interface is colored purple and green to match Donatello's colors, but we can also see that he's programmed the score of the basketball game at the bottom, which has the Knicks beating the Clippers 68-65. Then Donatello would soon get a phone call from an undercover April O'Neil with the world's worst wig on the top of her head. But though that wig is hideous, I guess it's supposed to be a nod to the hairstyle that April O'Neil had in the 80s cartoon, minus the hair color anyway. But speaking of the cartoon, when April O'Neil calls, Donnie's ringtone is actually the 80s cartoon theme tune, which is quite fun. And the reason why April is undercover at Grand Central Station as a socially awkward hot nerd girl is because she is trying to get close enough to hack the files of a nerdy mad scientist by the name of Baxter Stockman, played by actor Tyler Perry. And not only is April trying to steal Baxter Stockman's digital copies of A Diary of a Mad Black Woman and Medea Goes to Jail, but she's also trying to gain intel on the plans of one Oroku Saki, aka the Shredder, as she knew that Baxter Stockman was an associate of his from her childhood. Introduced on the pages of 1984's TMNT number 2, Baxter Stockman is one of the Ninja Turtles' most notorious recurring villains across different types of media. He's appeared in pretty much every Ninja Turtles cartoon, the old arcade games, and the recent Mutant Mayhem movie from 2013, played by Giancarlo Esposito. And while he typically starts off as a human scientist, most of his iterations have this doctor experience a radical change of some sort, either into a cyborg like he did in the original Mirage comics and the 2003 cartoon, or into a disgusting creature known as the Fly, which Baxter Stockman did for the first time in the 7th episode of the 2nd season of the 1987 cartoon. Stockman would also become the Fly in the 2012 cartoon and the Batman TMNT animated films. The only iterations of Baxter Stockman that don't have him transform into an abomination of some kind are the versions from the IDW comics, as well as a child Baxter Stockman called Baxter Stock Boy from the Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon. When Baxter Stockman was first introduced in the comics, he was a black scientist, as he usually is in most of his appearances, but sometimes they do make him a white dude, like they did for the 80s cartoon and the comics where the Ninja Turtles crossed over with Naruto and the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, respectively. But anyways, while April O'Neil flirts with Stockman to hack into his iPad, she brings up the Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter franchises to prove how much of a nerd she is. But April quickly leaves Baxter to chase down his assistant after the iPad is handed off. Then the song Blown by DNCE plays in the background as April decides to do her impromptu costume change into a schoolgirl to distract Trevor as she finishes the download. And when the transfer is complete, the Heroes in a Half Shell tune from the 80s theme song plays as a picture of 80s cartoon Donatello appears on her screen. And back over at the game, after Mikey causes DeAndre Jordan to slip on some pizza, the Turtles flee the garden to head home. And on their way back, Mikey decides to expose himself at the Halloween parade. Well, not expose himself, like letting his turtle wiener out or anything. I mean, like actually take his ass out of the shadows so we can party with the humans. And during Mikey's short time in the limelight, the Wildlife by Out of Sight plays in the background as he comes across a dude dressed up like Bumblebee from Transformers, a very obvious nod to producer Michael Bay's ties to the Transformers films. And we even hear the iconic sound effect from the 80s cartoon during their transformation as well. But Mikey is quickly yoinked back into the shadows by his brothers, just as Donatello gets a call from April informing the Turtles that Baxter Stockman plans to help Shredder break out of the prison that night, causing the Turtles to book it back home to inform Master Splinter. And when Donatello is entering that call, you could see that he actually has a Super Nintendo controller strapped on his right arm. A strong nod to the Super Nintendo classic TMNT Turtles in Time, one of my favorite games growing up as a wee child. We are then brought to the scene of Shredder's prison transport, with damn near the entire NYPD there to make sure that Oroku Saki did not use any of his deadly ninja skills to escape justice. I mean, he was found guilty of 32 first-degree murders, so Shredhead was set for some prison bedhead until he was dead. And as he heads to the transport truck, you can actually hear a bit of the Shredder's theme music from the 1990 movie, which is a super nice touch. Shredder is then loaded up inside the police transport vehicle alongside Bebop and Rocksteady, played by actors Gary Anthony Williams and Sheamus from the WWE, respectively. This is surprisingly the first time the characters Bebop and Rocksteady have appeared in a Ninja Turtles movie, as the two characters are usually Shredder's massive mutant muscle like they were in the 80s cartoon. The two characters almost originally made their big screen debut in 1991's Secret of the Ooze. However, comic book creators Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird were not about that idea at all, as they wanted to separate their live-action universe from the popular 80s cartoon at the time. So they ended up making two completely new monsters for that film named Toka and Razor. Then when it came time to make the 2014 rebooted film, the idea came up once again, but that was also shut down for a more human-centric threat. But in charge of the Shredder's transport is police officer Casey Jones, played by Stephen Amell of Green Arrow fame, following in the footsteps of 90s Casey Jones actor Elias Koteas and 2007 Casey Jones voice actor Chris Evans. And not to be a negative Nancy, but as a massive Casey Jones fan myself, this is by far the worst Casey Jones interpretation of all time, because Casey Jones was never supposed to be a cop, but a mentally unhinged sports-themed crime-fighting vigilante with long hair. Nothing about this interpretation screams Casey Jones to me. It's just Stephen Amell with a weird accent. But anyways, as Casey closes the door on Shredder before heading out, we can see that the leftmost guard behind him is actually Paul Tuttle Jr., famous for arguing with his father on the TV series American Chopper. Paul would actually get this cameo in the film after designing the motorcycles that we see Bebop and Rocksteady riding on later in the movie. The Turtles then race each other home to their turtle lair, which appears to be a usual thing for them, as they literally have a black and white checkered flag at the finish line. And after telling Splinter of Shredder's breakout plan, they quickly head to their new and improved turtle assault truck, which Donnie made out of an old Tartarugo Brothers garbage truck, with Tartarugo actually being the Italian word for male turtles. So the truck literally says male turtle brothers, which is what they are. And since they're all named after Italian Renaissance artists, this is very appropriate. And in addition to giant robotic nunchucks, the truck is also equipped with manhole launchers, a net launcher, and even a katana launcher for maximum turtle destruction, and to sell lots and lots of toys, of course. And inside the truck itself, we can see a pair of boxing gloves for Raph and an arcade game called Revenger's Mask, where Donnie has the high score over Mikey. And in the middle, they've got a flat screen TV that projects a map of the city. And as the Turtles chase the convoy, Casey Jones listens to Long Cool Woman by the Hollies as he reads Shredder's rap sheet, which lists Shredder as 200 pounds and being 6 foot 8 inches tall, when in reality, actor Brian T is actually 5'9". And we can also see that Shredder was born on April 15th, 1967, making him 49 years old in 2016, the year that this film takes place. And even though the announcer at that NBA game at the start mentions that Shredder was stopped 1 year prior, this is actually a big mistake on the part of the movie, as Out of the Shadows actually takes place 2 years later. And we can also see that Shredder was booked on August 8th, 2014, which was the same day that the 2014 movie came out in real life. But then the convoy is pretty much immediately attacked by the Foot Clan, causing Casey Jones to call on the radio for help. Jones notes that they're heading north on I-87, with 87 being the year that the first Ninja Turtles cartoon came out. And when Casey tries to load a shotgun, he asks his partner where the shells are at, which is hilarious considering that the heroes in a half shell are about to make their appearance to save his ass, while blasting their truck horn customized with the 80s cartoon theme tune. And as sparks fly from the roof of the convoy during the breakout, Bebop yells, "The roof is on fire!" referencing the popular hip-hop song of the same name by Rockmaster Scott and the Dynamic 3. And that song was of course released in 1984, just like the first Ninja Turtles comics were. Then the Turtles finally arrive on the scene to try to boot the Foot off of the prison convoy. And as Mikey readies his nunchucks giganticus, we can see a sign to the right that appropriately says, "Foot stinks," which is kind of funny. And when he destroys one of the Foot's cars with those nunchucks, Mikey quotes Tony Montana from 1983's Scarface by saying, "Say hello to my little friend." But after Mikey destroys those nunchuck arms by accident, Raph jumps into action and steals one of the Foot's motorcycles before riding it, just like the Raphaels from both the 2003 and 2007 animations like to do. And as all this is happening, Stockman monitors Shredder's position on his TCRI computers. TCRI, of course, stands for Techno-Cosmic Research Institute, ever since they were first introduced in the first Ninja Turtles comic as the ones that manufactured the ooze that mutated the Turtles and Master Splinter. But in this universe, TCRI is the name of Shredder's science division, formerly headed by Eric Sachs. We actually do see a little bit of Baxter Stockman in the previous 2014 movie, while April looks over footage of her younger self in the TCRI labs. He can be seen behind Eric Sachs and her father, while Sachs explains his experiments to April. But anyways, using alien technology, Baxter then accidentally teleports Shredder to the robotic feet of the film's main villain, Krang the Conqueror from the hit movie Avengers Krang Dynasty. Just kidding, that movie will never come out. Krang did some controversial things. The character Krang was created by David Wise and introduced in the second episode of the 1987 cartoon in order for the Turtles to have a non-human enemy that they could threaten with their sharp-ass knives. Krang is inspired by the Utrom alien race from the original Ninja Turtles comics, with that alien race being responsible for the ooze that mutated the Turtles. They made their first appearance in 1985's TMNT number 3. Krang is played by actor and comedian Brad Garrett in this movie, who happens to be good friends with the original Krang voice actor from the 80s, Pat Fraley. SNL alum Fred Armisen was actually originally supposed to play Krang in this movie, but had to drop out of the role due to other commitments. And much like he did in the cartoon series, this Krang hails from Dimension X, where Shredder was teleported to. Krang tells the Shredder to assemble the broken pieces of his arc capacitor so he can teleport his war machine to planet Earth. And that war machine is called the Technodrome, a classic Ninja Turtles doomsday weapon ever since it showed up in the 1987 cartoon. Krang creator David Wise has gone on record to say that he conceived the Technodrome as sort of a Death Star on tank treads, with the iconic Star Wars superweapon being direct inspiration, which definitely makes sense considering that the original Star Wars trilogy recently wrapped up a few years prior to that 80s cartoon. And while one of the arc capacitor pieces resides in the Brazilian rainforest, the other is apparently chilling at the American Museum of Natural History, with the Turtles having visited this museum at the beginning of the 20th episode of season 4 of the 2003 cartoon, as well as the start of 1989's Tales of the TMNT number 7. And after Krang gives Shredder some of his fancy new purple mutagen, he teleports Shredder back to Earth, just as the Turtles are looking over footage of Shredder's disappearance back at the Turtle lair. And as he processes the video of the escape, on the top left of Donnie's computer screen, you can see that he has a loading bar designed with 4 marching turtles, which is quite adorable. And as Donnie gives April a device to help her hack the TCRI mainframe from the source, we can see a Channel 6 news report on one of his computer screens behind him, the same channel that April O'Neil worked at in the previous movie, as well as in the original Mirage comics. Meanwhile, Casey Jones is taken off the Shredder case because nobody believed that the convoy was attacked by ninjas, even though the Shredder is the leader of a clan of ninjas, and God knows how many people probably recorded that very highway escape on their phones, but Casey is still determined to catch the Shredder on his own. Looking through Rocksteady's rap sheet, we can see that his name here is Owen Rocksteady, but he also goes by other aliases like Rocksteady or sometimes even Ivan Steranko, which is the name that was given to Rocksteady in Nickelodeon's 2012 animated series. And much like the Shredder, we can also see that his booking date was on August 8th, 2014 as well, another nod to the release date of the previous movie. And before Stephen Farrelly got the role of Rocksteady, actor Billy Brayer and wrestler CM Punk were also apparently heavily considered as well. Casey then heads to Bebop and Rocksteady's favorite Horseshoe Bar, where Bebop and Rocksteady are chilling and having a few drinks. Now, if this bar looks familiar, then you probably watched Netflix's Jessica Jones, because that is one of Jessica Jones's favorite bars. And behind Bebop, a poster containing Zachary Quinto's Spock on it can be seen, a reference to Star Trek, another movie franchise produced by Paramount Pictures. However, instead of Casey, the two are greeted by the Shredder himself, who recruits them to the Foot Clan by force. Then we are brought to the Turtle Lair, where all the Turtles are listening to the 1992 hip-hop classic Rum Shaker by Rex and Effect. A wild song to put in a kids movie, considering that the chorus of that song is literally, and I quote, "All I wanna do is zoom a zoom in ya poom poom." Words that you will never find in the Lord's Bible, unless you're reading Song of Solomon, I guess. It's a Bible joke. Probably not gonna get it, but some of you out there got it. And as Leo talks to Splinter and beats himself up for letting Shredder go, to his left you can see the old classic dinosaur arcade game, Dino Score. This could also be a slight nod to 1989's Tales of the TMNT number 7, where the turtles are sent to the Cretaceous period, as well as the Turtles in Time video game level Prehistoric Turtlesaurus, which has the turtles fighting dinosaurs in the Foot Clan in the distant past. Casey then finally reaches the bar, where a Channel 6 news report can be seen playing on the TV, and Vanilla Ice's Ice Ice Baby is playing on the jukebox. A nod to 1991's Secret of the Ooze. Vanilla Ice, of course, had a cameo and played a major role during the end of that movie. And if you want a really fun breakdown of Secret of the Ooze, check out my breakdown that I did here on Heavy Spoilers not too long ago. Subscribe today. Casey then threatens to trash the bartender's bar if he does not give Casey a lead on Bebop and Rocksteady, leading to Casey acquiring a tracker for their cell phones. Meanwhile, April arrives at the TCRI building just as Shredder forces Baxter Stockman to synthesize Krang's purple ooze before using said ooze on Bebop and Rocksteady, turning them each into a humanoid warthog and rhino respectively. This happens a lot differently in the second episode of the 80s cartoon, where we see this mutation for the very first time. But in that cartoon, Bebop and Rocksteady were mutated using the DNA of animals that Shredder stole from the local zoo. And the way that Bebop and Rocksteady look in this movie resemble their IDW comic book designs more so than the 80s cartoon though, which works a lot better in my opinion. After their transformation, Baxter Stockman tells his computer system to scan Bebop and Rocksteady, referring to his computer system as Omnis. This is a reference to the OMNSS sentient supercomputer from Season 2, Episode 4 of the original cartoon series. The acronym for Omnis stands for Omnipotent Multiprocessing Nexus Sub-Universal Sentience. And in that episode, Shredder and Baxter Stockman use the supercomputer's help in order to open a portal to Dimension X, much like we see Shredder and Baxter trying to do in this movie. April O'Neil witnesses this transformation before grabbing a canister of Krang's ooze for herself, leading to the Foot Clan chasing after her. But luckily for her, Casey Jones is there to save the day, wearing his iconic hockey mask and gear that he's been known to wear ever since he first appeared in 1985's Raphael number 1. The hockey stick that Casey Jones uses to fight the Foot has the words Eastman written on it, as another nod to Ninja Turtles creator Kevin Eastman. Josh Peck's Casey Jones from the 2012 cartoon would also don an Eastman hockey stick for the very same reason. And after the Foot Clan is dealt with, Casey Jones is finally introduced to the Ninja Turtles by Michelangelo himself, while the theme song to The Dating Game plays in the background, The Dating Game being a popular dating TV show from the 60s to 80s. And before the Turtles head back to their lair, they refer to Casey Jones as Friday the 13th, due to his hockey mask making him look like the famous fictional killer Jason Voorhees, which was actually a big reason why the character Casey Jones was excluded from 1991's Secret of the Ooze. Parents did not like that he looked too much like Jason at all, and they felt like he was going to scare the kids. But Casey Jones would insult them right back when they arrive at the Turtles' home, when he calls them all a bunch of swamp things, a reference to the menacing green DC Comics hero, which is quite hilarious considering that Stephen Amell played a rather menacing green DC hero himself as CW's Green Arrow. After Casey Jones finds out that the Turtles were the ones in that high-tech trash truck, Donatello discovers a way to turn the Turtles into humans with Shredder's new purple ooze. But Leo swears Donnie to secrecy in order to keep the Turtle Brotherhood intact. But little do they know, Lil Mikey heard everything and would report the news to Raphael. Raph then confronts Leo about hiding this news, causing the two of them to butt heads and split up. Leo and Donnie heading to the museum, while Raph and Mikey head to the police station to see if they can grab some more of that sweet, sweet ooze to turn them human. The Shredder, Bebop, and Rocksteady then head to the American Museum of Natural History to gather the second piece of the capacitor. And it truly boggles my mind how absolutely none of the scientists that found this piece of space debris ever thought to press one of the buttons conveniently placed on the side like Shredder does to reveal the component inside. But whatever, man, it's a kid's movie. And later, when Donnie and Leo visit the museum, Donnie scans the space debris and detects traces of neutronium, a hypothetical super dense substance entirely made out of neutrons that have been hypothesized to live inside of neutron stars. Meanwhile, Raph and Mikey convince April, Casey, and Vern to help them break into police headquarters to steal the canister of purple ooze that they collected from the night April visited TCRI. As the disguised April and Casey swipe their ID cards to get through the police building, the Turtles change April's credentials to a Renee Tilly, a reference to the time-traveling Ninja Turtles ally of the same name. Renee is the one who typically wields the Time Scepter in the comics, much like we see her do in her first appearance in 1986's TMNT number 8. The Time Scepter was, of course, the main cause of the time-traveling adventure found in 1993's TMNT 3. The birthday on the ID reads May 16th, 1986, which is the same month and year that the 7th issue of TMNT came out, which was an important issue that explains how the alien Utrom race was responsible for the ooze that mutated the turtles. And the expiration date on this ID reads October 15th, 2012, which is the day that the 2012 Ninja Turtles cartoon first debuted on Nickelodeon, the first piece of Ninja Turtles media following Viacom's purchase of the Turtles in 2009. But anyways, after April and Casey successfully get past security, April says cowabunga like the Turtles tend to do, right before she's greeted by two foot ninja holding a canister of the purple ooze. The Turtles reveal themselves to the police in order to try to stop the foot, but they still end up getting away, with the cops treating the Turtles like monsters. This is of course in direct contrast to how humanity treated the Turtles in the goofy 1987 cartoon, because the Turtles would literally just walk around the streets completely exposed and no one really gave a shit for too long. April and Casey then stand in front of the Turtles so the Turtles can escape before the cops shoot their asses, causing those two humans to get arrested. Then the Turtles track down Bebop and Rocksteady's unique biosignatures to Foz do Iguaçu, Brazil, the second time in a row that we've seen Turtles head to South America in a movie about interdimensional portals, with the first time happening at the beginning of TMNT 2007 when Leo was training in a South American jungle. However, Bebop and Rocksteady would be way ahead of them and manage to secure the second capacitor piece for themselves, basically making the Ninja Turtles jump out of a plane and fight Bebop and Rocksteady on the waters of the Iguaçu Falls for nothing. Meanwhile, the time is 7 o'clock when April and Casey are apparently interrogated by Police Chief Rebecca Vincent, played by actress Laura Linney. However, after we watch the Turtles battle it out in Brazil, we switch back to April and Casey, only for that clock to show that it is 6:10, either implying that these two spent about 12 hours in this interrogation room, or someone on set messed up bad with all the clocks. And I'm willing to bet the latter, because when April calls up Vern to hack into TCRI, the time on the TCRI security camera notes that it is 6:06 p.m., 4 minutes earlier than the time before, which makes no sense. And at some point during Casey and April's interrogation, Vincent asks the two where the Turtles even came from, which causes Casey Jones to reply, New Hampshire, which is completely untrue for the Turtles, but very factual for Turtles creators Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, who both hail from Manchester, New Hampshire. But yeah, Vern is able to secure a copy of some TCRI camera footage that proves that April's story of Shredder attempting to create a giant mutant animal army is true. However, the police start to believe this a little bit too late as the Shredder activates the portal that begins to send the pieces of the devastating Technodrome to planet Earth. This is of course after Shredder plays Baxter Stockman for a fool and betrays him after Baxter thought that they would rule Earth together. But speaking of Baxter and playing, I forgot to mention how earlier in the film we can see an ongoing game of chess on one of Baxter's tables. This is a direct reference to the second issue of the Baxter Stockman TMNT microseries from IDW from 2013, which shows how Baxter Stockman's father would force a child Baxter to play chess in order to make him smarter. This comic book Baxter would then use these principles of anticipating your opponent's next move in order to steal his father's company from him. That all being said, it's kind of wild how this Baxter did not see Shredder's betrayal coming a mile away, because Shredder clearly did not give a damn about anybody but himself. Then Shredder would put on his armor to go greet Commander Krang on his assembling Technodrome, with Shredder's fit taking direct inspiration from Shredder's design from the 2003 cartoon. But Shredder would soon get a taste of his own medicine of betrayal when Krang decides to cryogenically free Shredder and place him alongside a trophy of other frozen interdimensional aliens. And as Shredder is being stored away, to the left we can see what appears to be a Triceraton, an alien race from the Mirage Ninja Turtles comics that have appeared in many iterations of the Turtles after their first introduction in 1985's Fugitoid #1. But to the right we can also see a frozen neutrino, with those wild neutrino teenagers from Dimension X being introduced in the 4th ever episode of the 1987 cartoon. But anyways, after the Turtles reject the temptation to turn human, they decide to emerge out of the shadows and reveal themselves to the NYPD, specifically on Staple Street in Manhattan. And since the Turtles are the only one with the biology to get close to the Technodrome, the cops help the Turtles to get to Krang in the sky. And as they face off against Krang's robotic form, we can clearly see that the production went with a more modern, robotic-looking design rather than making him look like a giant baby like he does in the '87 cartoon. Mikey then ends up discovering that Krang's bubblegum-ass body is actually the stomach of this giant robot before his brothers do, which mirrors what happened in the '87 series when Mikey is the first to discover Krang while breaking into one of Shredder's buildings. And since Krang does look like bubblegum, Leo would call him Bubblicious after the famous bubblegum brand before the Turtles begin their final battle with him. A battle that they would not have been able to win without Turtle MVP Donatello, who not only uses his electrified bow staff to disable Krang's robot body, but also uses his tech skills to hack into Krang's computers and lure the Technodrome back to Dimension X using one of his drones. And finally, with the day saved, the Turtles all receive honorary keys to the city on Liberty Island, before the Green Turtles climb the Green Statue of Liberty itself to celebrate on the torch, symbolizing their transition out of the shadows. Then the movie ends with a rock version of the original TMNT theme song from the '80s animation. Steve Jablonsky, the composer of this film, as well as Michael Bay's Transformers films, actually made an orchestral version of this song. But the production ended up not using it, much like they didn't end up using a surprise cameo from actress Judith Hoag, the original April O'Neil in the 1990 Ninja Turtles film, before she was replaced with actress Paige Turco for the following two films. But in the deleted scene, Judith Hoag plays April's boss, Rita, who offers April O'Neil the Channel 6 anchor desk before telling April that she thinks they're the same person, which is quite hilarious. Becoming a news anchor was the main professional aspiration of Judith Hoag's April O'Neil in the 90s, so seeing her offer that same position to Megan Fox's April felt very appropriate. But speaking of 90s turtle film cameos, Elias Koteas, who played Casey Jones in the original 1990 movie alongside Judith, was also asked to make a quick cameo in this movie, but he apparently wasn't really all that interested in doing so. And same goes for actor Sam Rockwell, who had a minor role in the 1990 movie as well as one of Shredder's Foot Clan soldiers. But anyways, that is it for this breakdown of TMNT Out of the Shadows from 2016. What do you guys think of this movie? Let us know in the comment section down below. You guys can follow me at Mastertainment on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, wherever I am on the internet, but most importantly, follow Heavy Spoilers here on YouTube by hitting the subscribe button and maybe even hitting that like button if you guys enjoyed the video. But anyways, I have been MT, you guys have been amazing, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.